David, it is so good to have you on the Books for Guys podcast. I have, man, it's just great to finally meet you.
Yeah, brother. I've been looking forward to this. My staff has given me so much information about what you guys do. Just really excited about sharing the information that we have today. And just shout out to you and your team. That's a lot of work that you guys have to do to be able to put something like this together. And I'm honored to be able to be on here, man, and share this information with you and your
Yeah.
tribe.
Yeah. Well, man, we appreciate it. And I told you before we jumped on here, your team's been great to work with, very communicative. I got your book in my hands, which I finished, and we'll talk a lot about it. But I'll go ahead and say it's a top 5 book for me. Just I read a lot of personal development, leadership books, and just the way you wrote it, and just the style of it all is different than a lot of personal development books out there. And so I can't wait to have you talk more about it yourself. But wanted to say thank you for taking the time to come on the Books for Guys podcast and also give your team a shout out because they've been fantastic to work with.
Sentiment. Love to hear
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, man, David, so this book came out a couple years ago, officially, that you authored, The Swords of Illumination, which we've got it on the Books for Guys, or I'll have it on the Books for Guys website this week so everyone can go and purchase it and everything there. I've been trying to read it, which I finished before we had this discussion, but man, tell me your background. So you started this business about 30 years ago now. For those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background and just kind of how this all got started.
So I grew up in those little dots on the end of Florida called the Florida Keys, right? And if you haven't been to the Florida Keys, please put that on your bucket list. It is a magical place. And growing up there, I literally grew up on the flipper show because in our canal systems, right, salt water in there, one of the ladies who was a huge real estate owner, her name was Betty Brothers. She actually was the last owner of 2 bottlenose dolphin, and those dolphin were young when I was growing up, and they swam in our canal systems. Every day after work, we would jump in the canal and swim with Sua and Doll. I mean, like every day. It was an amazing process. So growing up in the ocean, growing up underneath the ocean, I spent more of my life underneath the water than I have on top of it, about 29 years old, other than sleeping, let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I'm a water guy too, so I
Oh,
can
are you?
appreciate that.
Well, scuba diving has been my life, man. So
Yeah, that's
Jacques
awesome.
Cousteau was one of my heroes growing up.
Oh,
So I came out of the Florida Keys, went to school there, community college, then jumped into the world of banking and finance, came out of school with a finance degree, got involved in real estate at a really high-end level. A gentleman I was working for became the #1 selling real estate agent in the world when we were together, and then got involved in politics after that. Oh my goodness, Chris. Wow.
even if prepared, not prepared.
Still not prepared after all this time, for sure. Great gifts. I learned that if you were really going to change the world, politics was not the way to do it. It was really, you got to explore some other place. And so when I was in my real estate field, I was actually traveling around the country with the gentleman, and we were on stage, promoting things, team dynamics, sales, those kind of things. And one of those adventures, I actually met the gentleman I went to work for next. His name was Tony Robbins, and he came up on stage right after us. And Chris, let me tell you, I'm 26 years old. I'm just full of myself. I'm the business manager for the #1 selling agent in the world, right?
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with me at the time. And this gentleman gets on stage and blows us away. Like we weren't even there. I mean, it was a shocking new dimension, quantum leap of understanding human performance.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got to go to work for this guy. So I did. And called him up, left him a personal message that won't go into today, but got a chance to work with him for a number of years. And I will tell you, the seminar business was really interesting because it gave me the opportunity to really see there was a lot of promises being made, but not a lot of deliverable results. And I wanted something different, man. I don't know, a craving within me that just would not let me go, that just said, there's got to be a way this place really works, how I work in it, how the spiritual energy really connects with this physical plane. And I've just been enthralled with finding out that mystery. Believe me, as much as I've discovered, I've got miles to go before I sleep.
Yeah.
That's been the adventure so far.
Yeah. Well, and that's awesome because Tony Robbins, obviously, very well known name. Read a lot of his books, followed him. A lot of people followed him. So being able to work with him, I'm sure was just an incredible experience. And obviously, I'm sure it had a big impact on you and just I don't know how you live your life and all. Had a little piece of the puzzle for you and what you've been accomplishing since then. Uh, talk a little bit. Samurai Success. how did you go about, so like you've been here in the States, Florida, you're in Colorado. How did you go about implementing the culture that you've intertwined in this book to give the lessons, the Swords of Elimination? I mean, we're talking about one part of the book, the balance wheel, which is very interesting because I'm a part of a leadership group here in Nashville, and we actually do exercises around the balance wheel once a month. And I was like, well, and I was curious. I didn't know where my leader got it from. And I was like, "Hey, I just read this book." And he's like, "That's where I got it from." And I was like, "Dude, that's awesome." So it kind of came full circle to where I've been doing this for about 6 months now and had no idea where he got it from. But going back to the original question, how did you go about implementing the Japanese culture into this story, and like, just where did that idea come from?
So, interestingly enough, there was a preacher in our church that was a very interesting guy. He talked about crazy stuff, though. I mean, it wasn't just the Bible he talked about practical things and integrate. And he just was it made so much sense to me the way he was talking about it. And in one of our conversations, he was very, very comfortable with just talking to us in Sunday school and everything else. But he said something really interesting. He says, "You really want to live a quality of life? Then be in service of others." Now, Chris, that didn't make sense to me when he first said it. I was like, well, okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Years later, I read a book called Samurai Selling. And in that book, it translated the word samurai into being in service of others. And
Mm,
I'm getting goosebumps right now, brother. But the connection for me was just that fast. It was like, oh my God, there's my metaphor.
yeah.
And it put me on a path of studying martial arts for the last 25 years and everything else that's blossomed for that. And that's the power of understanding metaphor into self-creation. And
Yeah.
that's what the book is really about.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a lot in this book where I found it enjoyable because obviously, like I said, I've read a lot of personal development or books like this, and typically it's, hey, David giving me, guidelines of what to do, and David talking about his life, and David telling me to, and I'm just using your name as that's what most authors do when they're writing these books. You wrote it in more of a fiction story to where you kind of get lost in this story, but the lessons are life lessons, like one after the other. And you're just like, man, I got to implement this. Man, this is speaking to me. Man, this is stuff that like I'm taking and I'm implementing. And so it's just a different approach to this type of book. And so we're just, and I've already recommended it to like 15 other people in groups. I'm like, guys, you guys got to read this because it's different than what you typically read. And so I guess like, you've been working this business, like I said, for about 30 years now, and the book just recently came out not that long ago. What led you to actually writing the book? Like, has that been in the plans for a long time? Was it something that came along later where you were like, hey, I need to put what I'm doing in writing or create a different way to put this out there? What was that like?
So interestingly enough, when I had finished working in real estate and working with in the speaking field and things like this, I know this is going to sound strange, but I was really depressed. I was really like, something's wrong. Something's missing is probably the better word for that. And I was 28 years old, 29. And I was like, this can't be it. I'm now get to understand. I'm living on South Beach. I'm living in a mansion. Our office is a yacht in the middle of the Miami Intercoastal. I've got access to race boats, to cars, women, the money. Chris, listen, I'm living what I would think would be the dream of anybody else's life, and
Yeah,
I'm absolutely depressed.
yeah,
What the heck is going on here?
yeah,
This doesn't match up. From what I've been told about living this life and what I'm experiencing didn't match up. There was
yeah,
something missing. And I was like, what is that? Well, of course, faith was a big part of that. And, having a connection with source, things like this. I didn't know that at the time. But the further I got away from source, the deeper into darkness I got. No matter how much of the material world was here for me, it didn't solve the thirst and quench that thirst of getting to that thing. And so I went on a very different journey, man. I just decided, hey, I'm giving this stuff up. I'm going on a very different path. So that was 30 years ago. It seems like yesterday for me anyway.
yeah.
this idea behind the book, my favorite author is Og Mandino. And if you've read any of Og's work, then you know his, Christian-based faith and, his parables and things like this. He always wrote in fables. And I love that approach because, okay, I don't know about you, Chris, but when somebody starts telling me what to do, I just shut off. I just click, okay.
100%. Same way.
By the
Yep.
way, I'll nod at you and I'll just do this whole thing and I'll be nice and courteous. But man, click, it just shuts off. So
Yep.
I'm like, what the hell? So that became why I wrote the book for two reasons. One was I actually had gained all this knowledge and I was actually exploring the experience of that knowledge.
Yeah.
And so we actually finished the book in 2009
Wow.
and we didn't publish it until 2013.
Yeah.
I was
Wow.
like, what are you doing, David? Why are you holding on to this information? Here's why. I wanted to bring somebody to the marketplace that truly changed things. Not just a promise, not just a story.
Yeah.
And the only way I knew that I could do that with integrity, Chris, is that I had to go live this technology. Between 2000 and when we started writing, 2000 earlier, 7 and 9, and 2023, I finally had experienced enough of the technology in my own life to know that the damn stuff works.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that was my promise to the universe that if it shared with me this technology, I would share it with the rest of the world. The first part of that one was because I really wrote it for myself. Have you ever had that sense where you've been here before? I don't know, that deja vu moment. I have a lot of those, Chris. I don't know why. I know it sounds crazy. I get it. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that I had a real great fear that I was like, man, I've learned all this amazing information. Totally egotistical, by the way. I learned all this information and I was like, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to have to relearn all this stuff again. Here's a solution.
Yep.
Write all your stuff down and write a love note to yourself. So when you get back here, the stuff's published for you in one location.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about the book, that someone like you has picked it up, because by the time I get here the next time, and I don't know if that's going to happen truthfully or not, man, Chris, just have some fun with me. But by the time I get back here, someone will have read that and evolved that book to the next level. And I may have a mentorship with that person growing up, because that's what this information is about. It truly does. It changes your experience of the world, not changes the world. The world is so beautiful and magnificent the way it is. And we've forgotten that. It's my experience, the meanings I've given things. And that's what that book is about, is like, hey, you have more control and responsibility than you've ever thought about in your entire lifetime. Here's how it actually works from a practical perspective. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I love the message of like everyone's journey is different. You got to figure it out on your own. No one can tell
Yes.
you. I mean, you can learn and seek it, but until you take the right steps of implementing it and figuring out yourself, your journey is different than everybody else's. And I love that about. Am I saying the character Yoshi? Is that the proper name?
Yes.
Yeah. So just his figuring things out, I would self reflect on here too. Like this stuff speaking to me because I've gone through similar things. You think you've made it, and then you get punched in the face, and you got to figure something different out. Like, okay, that wasn't right. And then again, going back to the balance wheel, it's incredible. Like every month I do it, I'm like, all right, I improved here, but man, I'm slacking a little bit over here again. And it's so hard to get that wheel properly balanced because
Mm.
I don't know. Time is, you said earlier, like 30 years, can't believe it's gone by so fast. Like when you have clarity and vision and you're doing things that you feel like passionate about, time just goes. And you look back at each day I do right now, just with Books4Guys and just like my passion and clarity behind it. I'm like, I need more time. I need more time. Like I've got so much to accomplish here and do, and you're the same way. I can feel the energy from you in speaking about this. It's just like, I know what I've got to accomplish. I love what I'm doing. Like you just got to keep going. But what I guess for someone, and you've kind of already gone into this, but if there's just one nugget or one piece of advice or just something that you would love for someone to take away from your book, and you can only pick one thing, what do you hope someone takes away from reading your book? That's a tough
Not
one,
that
right?
question, Chris.
I didn't send you that before, so I put you on the
Yeah,
spot with that one.
hello. Okay, I know that we have this fascination with the one thing that's going to make the biggest change, but I will tell you one actually exists for me. And that is so much of my life that I love movies. I love music. And it's the way the universe actually talks to me. Because some of the lyrics, just like at the perfect time, the right lyric, just, oh, and you just sit back and you're like, you start to cry because it was so perfect with that lyric. That was like written 20 years ago and it's this amazing moment for me that happens often. And so a lot of the music and movies that I was watching spoke to this one concept. And it said that you were here to find out who you are, or you were here to discover who you are, or you are here to find some rock or some treasure box that if you opened it up, then inside there was going to be this magic of who you are already written down. And that's all I just need to do is find the damn thing and then go read that and go live it. And you know, the story, it's called Just Tell Me What to Do. Tell me what
Yep.
the rules are and I will follow them. And this was it haunted me that I wasn't finding the box. I wasn't finding the right rock. I wasn't running into the right people. And then finally the universe took me out of my misery and introduced me to this beautiful master of a man. And he said this one thing that truly changed everything. And that book is the centerpiece of everything we're about to talk to. Chris, you are not here to discover who you are. You are here to create who you are.
Yep. I
And I
actually
hope
highlighted that in the book that I was actually going to say was probably one of the most impactful things I read because I'm a believer that you create your own path, but actually reading you create who you are. I actually reread that a few times when I was reading the book, and I was like, uh-huh, yeah, I like that.
now look at every celebrity or personality or characteristic or even the president of the United States or any other person you admire or don't admire, whatever it is, I will promise you, those people are using this technology. They know who they are, and you cannot talk them out of it. You cannot talk them out of it. Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift because you cannot talk her out of that. Gandhi was Gandhi because you could not talk him out of his beliefs and stuff. Donald Trump, like him or not, it doesn't matter. You cannot talk that man of who he is. This is a theme. And if you really want to get to how this physical plane rewards results, it rewards congruency. When you say you are this, you create this, and you do the things that align with that, that's congruency, Chris. And that's the universal reward system.
Yep. Yep. Man, preach, David. I mean, I mean, bring it, man. That's incredible. That's great. Like I said, I mean, that was part of the book where I was like, this is. I couldn't put it down. Honestly, I was sitting there reading it at night. My wife's like, "Hey, dude, you coming to bed?" I'm like, "I gotta read another chapter. I gotta read another chapter. This is just too good, and it's speaking to me." David, you kind of mentioned it earlier too. So obviously, like you were mentioning, like, hey, I don't know if I'll write another book. Like this is going to have so much impact for many years. But now that you have authored a book, do you think that you will potentially write another one that's in parallel to this one, or do you have other, I don't know, any other thoughts or just the way you want to put your message out there that you think you would put it in a different style book, or has that even been a thought?
It absolutely has. As a matter of fact, we're writing book 2 of the sequence
Oh,
of the book right
let's
now.
go.
So
Let's go.
very beginning, this was always, by the way, we actually shaved down book 1 because it was massive. And the publisher was like, we need to get this down to like 25,000 words. Well, we ended and published at 80,000 words, just so you have an understanding, right? There was just so much flowing through us at the time. And so now we have to put that into book 2. So book 1 and book 2, there was always the
Right.
imagination to be able to have these two things. And then the third one was going to be a workbook that said, hey, this is how you actually apply the information. Because in the book, it talks about knowledge is not power. It's application of that knowledge that becomes power. Right. And we've kind of lost that whole metaphor, that cliche that we say that we're all gathering all this knowledge, but we're not applying it. In this book, it reminds me to go and apply what I already know. And I will tell you, that has been a godsend to me because I don't need to go out and keep seeking information. I just keep applying what I do. And those become the rituals. And Chris, to your point earlier, the rituals in my life is what sustains the wheel of balance. So to answer your question, like, how do I get the wheel of balance? It's taking all those 10 categories and realizing there's a ritual for every single one of those. And when I do them, they don't need to be 2 hours long. They
Yeah.
could be 5 minutes or
Yeah.
less. But I know that when I do those rituals, man, I'm touching every single aspect of that wheel. Does it mean that every single one is perfect? Of course not. That's not what
Yeah.
I'm after. It's about going after that perfection, right? Evolving into who actually can manage those things in those different categories that makes it so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And staying disciplined and focused on doing that is so important, which is another lesson I took away from this too, just discipline and doing things and um, just chipping away at what you're trying to accomplish and finishing what you start or and pivoting where you need to and that sort of thing. There's again so many lessons, but um, any insight to when the next book will come out? It
You know,
just kind of
it's
is
funny.
writing or
There's an old story about, the very first hit song that you get to write, you can write that forever. But the second song after you have your first hit, you better get on it. And that's what we're
yeah.
doing right now. So
Yeah.
we're hoping by the beginning of next year that we'll have book 2 available for everybody. Now, believe me, the writing process that I use with this is very unique. I understand that. But this is information that is not coming from me. It's actually
Yeah.
coming through me.
Yeah.
And that download process is something I learned when I was about 9 years old, when I saw John Denver on a classic Dick Cavett interview. And he was asking John Denver, who of course was an icon when I was growing up, how he wrote Country Roads. And John
Mm,
just kind of looked up for just a second. He says, it just came to me.
yeah.
And I was fascinated by that. Now, I didn't get the message at 9 years old, Chris, right? I was like,
Yeah.
come on. But I really was like, what does that mean? Where is this information somewhere? So now I know that information actually is stored somewhere. It's actually called the world of and realm of pure potentiality. Every how to do everything, every song, every book, every message, every word that's ever going to be spoken is in that location. And if I can learn how to get out of the way and get access to that information, I can download information directly from source. And that's what makes that book so fascinating. When
Yeah.
I've read that book over 35 times myself from editing and everything else like this, I
Yeah.
will tell you, I gain insights from that book every single time I read it.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. I
Yeah.
wanted, that I was like, oh yeah, I read that. I got that. No, that's not that book. So if you are planning on getting that book, if you start reading it, it's going to get you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're
Well,
serious about me,
like you said, you were writing it to yourself. So many of the lessons you were trying to take away from it anyway. But now you got country roads in my head. I mean, I'm here in the South and it's football season and they put that song behind so many highlight videos of college football. I've probably already heard that song 5 or 10 times this week watching, just videos of football and whatnot. Now I'm gonna probably have to play it when we get off this podcast. But no, well, David, one more question for you. Just something I ask people, people who have had a lot of success, people who have written books, and just the purpose of Books for Guys is to make reading like the cool thing to do. Leaders are readers, leaders are writers.
right?
I'm working with some athletic sports teams, high school teams, and trying to show them athletes who read and athletes who have written books. But are there any books, and I know you worked with Tony Robbins, so I mean that would kind of be an easy, I'm sure his books had an impact. But are there any books throughout your life that have had a really big impact on you and that you would recommend to others? Maybe it's a book you read yearly, or maybe it's a book that you give away to people who you think needs it. But is there a book or two that has meant a lot to you throughout your career?
Yeah, there's a series of 9 books that I read every single year, and I've done that for almost 20 years. So not to give you the long list of this, but I will tell you the chess piece, the king on that chess board of the books that I read. The very first one is a much more spiritual book kind of thing that kind of gives you an understanding about how we work as human beings and our connection to spiritual energy. It's a really, truly wonderful book. And I've actually coached with the author of that book for the last 27 years. I mean, I've been his student. I'm not
Yeah,
coaching him. He's coaching me.
yeah,
I will tell you that book is called A Conversation with God by Neil Donald Walsh. It is a fascinating read. And my wife and I actually started reading that together as we were dating. We then got engaged, kind of thing. We've been married for the last 17 years, kind of things. We've been together for 25 years. And the remarkable part is that she lives in a different part of the country than I do, which these long distance relationships we've done it for 25 years, man.
Yeah.
We make things work because love makes things work, right? So
Yeah.
that's where I would start. The other book, of course, is The Greatest Salesman in the World or The Richest Man in Babylon by Og Mandino.
Mhm.
Those are
Mhm.
spectacular. Those three reads, man, if you can get those in, I will
Yeah.
tell you that's fascinating stuff for sure.
Yeah. The Richest Man in Babylon, that one's been recommended a couple times, and I personally haven't read it yet, but it is on my list. So now that you've recommended it as well, I need to probably move that up the chain a little bit and read that sooner than later. But no, well, David, and I've got obviously, speaking and coaching. Tell everyone where they can connect with you or your team at if they're interested in their services.
So we just launched our social media about a year and a half ago. So we're brand new to the social media. I know that sounds kind of strange, but why haven't you been on social media? Why haven't you been marketing? I will be really clear with you guys. I'm not going to be on the head of CEO magazine or Forbes magazine. I'm just not going to be there because we wanted to prove that this stuff worked before we marketed it at all. I wanted to make sure of that. You don't need another product in the world promising everything else and not getting your results. I wanted something different. So the best place to be able to get us access to is samuraisuccess.com. There's over 150 videos there for you, free of charge, that kind of stuff, just to get to know us a little bit better, really find out what we'd be able to do. And then if you really are interested, it resonates with you, reach out and talk to one of our team members, and we'll make sure we get back to you and see if we can be of service.
Yeah, love that. And we'll put the website link in the podcast. We'll also put it on the website. We'll have the book on the website this week as well. So if anyone's interested in purchasing it, I highly recommend it. Obviously, Books4Guys, we give away books each month to our community members. So if you do feel led to join and support the community, probably can recommend sending this one to you for free as a thank you, because I think a lot of people will benefit from it. David, man, again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm interested. And like I said, I've been talking this book up all week to my networking groups, people I work with. And now that I know there's going to be a part two, I'll be on the lookout. Can't wait for that to come out as well. And so, man, just can't say thank you enough. I really appreciate it.
Chris, thanks so much for having me on today.
Absolutely.